so impressed with this microphone.
It's a very good microphone.
I should be calling a horse race or something.
And down the stretch they go.
They're neck and neck. Isn't this great?
Anybody wants to sponsor us?
It's beautiful. I'm intrigued by it. It
Yes.
makes us look so professional.
Yes, well.
Well, so
When
does the
you're as
unicorn
famous
bug.
as I am, you have to have a good microphone to talk to the people, all your fans.
Look, yes, everyone out there in TV land.
It reminds me of my daughter. We did a video one time, and my daughter, she was 7 or 8 or something like this, and she walked up to me, she goes, to my fans.
My daughter, so she was probably about 6 or 7. She wore a purple wig to Giant with a pink, with a pink streak in it. It was a Twilight Sparkle wig from My Little Pony.
Nice.
But she wore this wig to Giant, and I said, "Why are you wearing that?" And her response to me was, "So people won't know who I am."
Of course, you have to go incognito.
I didn't know you were famous.
No, please, my fans. Oh, they just mobbed me at the Giant in the produce section, and suddenly, can I have your autograph? Oh,
all I wanted
just trying to get a
was
banana.
a bunch of broccoli.
The spinach is going bad by you asking me to have my autograph, please. Welcome to our show, by the way.
Not sure why she thought that. Hi, everybody.
Yes, we're reminiscing about the olden days.
Yes, when kids were.
When kids were kids and not sponging off your food and not paying you rent.
Oh, well.
That's you. Talking to you.
My kids don't pay me rent, but they're still really young, so
Yeah,
I guess I can't get mad at them for that yet.
No, yours should get a job. I'm telling you that I don't.
Honestly, yeah.
It's a right to work state. You're under 10, you can work.
My one, she's already discussing that she's going to work at the Philadelphia pretzel factory. I really think she just wants to bring home those little rivets at the end of the day with some brownie batter dipping, which
she gets a job there. Put good word in for me, please.
How can I say no to that?
I'm there.
Yeah.
They always said if you get a job at a pizza place, you lose your taste for pizza.
Is that true?
Nope. Fox's Pizza Den, Bedford, Pennsylvania.
More lies that they tell you.
Yes, I opened up the Fox's Pizza Den. I was one of the first employees. And,
oh wow!
It's a very small town, central Pennsylvania. Dan, you'll know where that is. You've been there. And they opened this little pizza place. It's a very small town, and at the time there were no delivery places, so nobody knew that you tipped delivery drivers. And I'm driving my car to drop off pizzas, and I'm getting paid $3.50 an hour or whatever it was at the time, plus tips. But I was getting paid $3.35 an hour or whatever it was at the time, and no tips.
Probably especially out there where like delivery was probably just in itself a totally foreign concept. Who do you deliver to?
Well, we had deliveries. I delivered them, but the gentleman who was the local manager came in from out of town and was setting up the whole place. He had opened up a few stores, and he said, well, we're going to have the delivery be in Bedford Township, which sounds great until you look at it on a map. Bedford Township is 2 miles wide and like 15 miles long. And the store's right in the middle, which is great.
Great.
But then one day I said, I know the map of Bedford. You do not want it to be that big. He goes, really? He goes, I have a delivery to the very bottom end. Come with me. So, okay. About 20 minutes later, we pull up in the driveway. He goes, yeah, this is too far. I said, could have told you that. I think I did tell you that.
Too far. A delivery was also just a foreign concept to me growing up. I mean, our town wasn't as small as like Bedford, but there's no one around to deliver to.
Yeah.
No.
And I was delivering on horse-drawn carriages back in my day, so you know.
Oh man.
You know how old I am.
Yeah. I thought it was by chariot or something.
Well, that was my parents. My parents rode by chariot. I had a Conestoga wagon, and we took that one. But
You could fit a lot of pizza in a Conestoga wagon.
it would be cold by the time you got it anywhere. But yes, you could.
You could snack on some of it. Put an extra couple.
Oregon
in there
Trail.
for you.
Do you have pizzas? Yes, I have pizzas. You have survived.
You know, they still play that game.
Oh yeah.
In elementary,
yeah.
my daughter was
Yeah.
discussing it with me. She goes, I played this thing called Oregon Trail. I'm like, what Oregon Trail? Who died?
Yeah. You died of dysentery.
Yep. Who died? And then I said, did you hunt so much? You had too much meat? You could. Yes. I said, yep.
Oh, the delivery of pizza goes back to my first car.
Oh.
I was delivering in my first
Did
car.
Did you? Oh.
So
it was not a Conestoga wagon.
It was not a Conestoga wagon. No. It had pneumatic tires and everything. So
wow.
So the story of my first car was my father was a state police officer, and he had a police car to drive to work. He bought a brand new car a couple years before I turned 16, and it sat in the garage. He drove it on weekends to play golf. That was it. Mm-hmm. I had to go to school. So when I turned 16, and the summer I turned 16, the bridge between my house and school had flooded out.
Oh, geez.
So you had to go all the way around or take the school bus. I'm 16 years old. I'm not taking a school bus. There's no way.
That's for losers.
The plebeians can go take the school bus. There's a car in the garage. I'm taking it.
Yeah.
So I would take Dad's car to school. Mm-hmm. And
did he know you took it to school?
Yes. I had permission. I did not.
Okay, good.
2 years later, when I went off to college, I stole the car and took it to college.
That was
so a few months after that,
permission.
he realized it was gone, and he bought himself a new car. But I had a Dodge Aries.
Oh.
I loved that car, mainly because I had a car.
Yeah.
And
doesn't have to do much
no,
at that age.
No.
It just has to move.
My friends had older cars, and I was lucky enough to have a 2-year-old car when I turned 16 that had 17,000 miles on it. Mm. But my dad was notoriously cheap. So a car to him was transportation.
Yes.
So the car he sold before this was a 1974 Subaru. Vinyl bucket seats.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, I can remember that. I think it was $1,600 when he bought it. It was sitting on the lot for a year, so it was brand new, but it was a year old. Uh-huh. He bought it in like 75. It was like $1,600. It was orange, bright orange. And it was a coupe. It was tiny.
I love it.
White vinyl interior. It was just amazing.
Oh, I love it already.
Yeah. It ran like a top. He loved the car. It kind of rusted out, and he patched the holes with Bondo and sold it to a friend. So his friend drove it for a few more years. It was a great car. But when he sold that, he bought this Dodge Aries, which was the base model. Chrysler introduced the Aries and advertised it as being $59.95 for the base model.
Okay.
Ours was $6,700. It had a couple options. But it had the vinyl bench seat. It was a 6-passenger car with a stick shift. So it had this 4-speed manual, and the third gear, I swear, was in the glove box. It was so far away. But it had bench seats, so it had a seatbelt in the middle here for a passenger, right in the middle. So if we packed the car up there, I would always make sure that a girl sat beside me, so that, second and fourth gear were on their knees.
Oh yeah. Yep.
It was a nice little touch, but
Dodge was thinking of you.
Oh, it was a fantastic car. It had plenty of room. It had, like I said, no options. Mm-hmm. It had cruise control and an AM radio. Wow. Those were my 2 options. And it drove like a top. It got great gas mileage. It was in the era where carburetors had all kinds of controls on them, and they were expensive to replace. So my dad always said, if that carburetor goes, the car's junk, because it would cost too much to replace it. So after I graduated college, it had about 95,000 miles on it. Okay, it's still running good. I'm getting rid of it. So I traded it in and got another car. But if I could find that car today, which I'm sure it's in a junkyard somewhere, I would buy that car back. Yeah. I loved that car.
In a heartbeat. I think a lot of people feel that way about their first car.
Yeah, and you?
Actually, it's a sort of similar story. When I turned 16, my parents had a Minivan. I'm trying to think of which minivan. That would have been. It was a red Chrysler Town and Country.
Oh,
I'm
nice.
not sure what year it was.
Very nice.
And we also had a 1997 Chrysler Cirrus, and we had a Plymouth Sundance. Do you remember those?
Sundance, yes.
Yes. So my parents bought two Sundances because my older brothers, when they turned 16, those were the cars that they drove. We had a red one and a gray one, and it was it like one of the first cars to come with airbags standard, I think.
Right.
That's why they bought it for
Good.
teenage boys who were learning how to drive. My brother Chris had the red one, and my brother Matt typically drove the gray one. And I think that car was, the gray one was still around when I was learning how to drive, and I didn't like it. Like, I don't know. I just didn't like it. I couldn't tell you why I didn't like it, but I didn't. And I actually liked driving the minivan. Like, I think because I sat up really high and I was tiny. I felt like I could see things better. But eventually, really, the Cirrus became mine. That's the one that I drove. I started to feel comfortable with it. I loved that car. It was great.
Yeah,
It
Cirrus
was
a good car. Yeah.
It was so nice. It was so smooth when you drove it. Like, it was like no effort was made on that car to do anything. And you barely press the gas and you'd be gone.
Good.
And it was about 2 years old when I started driving, and I, was lucky because a lot of my friends had crappy cars, or not even crappy, but like I remember when I was in high school, there were a lot of like Toyota like Corollas and Camrys.
Corollas are always a good first car.
Yes, a lot of those, and I had this Chrysler Cirrus, but it was big. It was a big car.
For the time, maybe. I mean,
well, no,
I had friends
know.
who had
Compared to
good
the little
70s Cutlass Supremes, which were big cars.
Compared to the little Sundance.
Yes.
And then they traded that in for a Dodge Neon.
Another small car.
Yeah, the Cirrus was a lot bigger, but I was more comfortable with it than the little ones. And I just sort of took that car with me to college.
Nice.
So I didn't steal it necessarily, but I just kind of took it with me. And then when I graduated college, my parents they just gave it to me, and I drove that car till 2010 when I got the Fit that I'm driving now. So I drive cars into the ground.
No
but it really didn't have major issues with it, but I was worried that it was going to start.
Right.
Because it hadn't yet, and it was now, what is that, 13 years old, and
things will start going wrong.
And a dumb kid drove it for a lot of the time. So
the interesting thing about the Cirrus, one of the interesting things about the Cirrus, was it was part of three cars that Chrysler came out with, and they called them the Cloud cars.
Yes, the Stratus.
The Stratus, the Cirrus, and the Breeze.
The Breeze.
Yes.
Okay, I remember Breezes.
Yeah.
My uncle had a Stratus. Yeah, and it was very similar.
Oh yeah, they were all exactly the same body. They just had different noses and trim and such.
Mine was the best color.
The Cirrus was the top of the line model.
Well, it was like this really cool color too. It was like,
say it was gray, like blue gray.
It's like a green gray.
Oh, okay.
I think it was called like Silver Fern or something. I had to look it up. It was such a cool color. And like that's one of the reasons. I know it's really shallow and you shouldn't like a car based on its color. But that was like one of the things that like was so neat about it, because I don't see cars even today. I don't know if I've ever seen a car that wasn't a Chrysler Cirrus that color.
Right.
It was just such a cool color.
So
I loved it.
Buying cars on color is not
recommended.
Well, it's not recommended, but it's also not an anomaly. I sold cars very briefly and very poorly. And so one day, the dealership we had a fleet of used rental cars, Ford Tempos, a whole bunch of them.
Mm-hmm.
And
I remember Ford Tempos.
Everybody remembers Ford Tempos.
Yep.
They were everywhere at one
Yep.
point. And this woman came in, and I don't think she had ever And she definitely never bought a new car. She, and she was, I was just out of college, and she was older. I'm going to say she was 40-ish. And she had her mother with her, who was probably 60-ish. And the two of them, I said, get in the car, we'll take you for a test drive. We took the car out for a test drive. She came back, she pulled into the lot, she goes, so do I write you a check? I'm like, there's more to buying a car than just something like. But she bought the car, she picked out the car because of the color, and it was about the color of your cover there. It was this deep blue, it was a very pretty car.
Yeah.
But she spotted it on the road, she goes, I want to drive that car, and she drove it and she bought it. And there was no negotiations. The price on the windshield was what she paid. And I wish I'd still be selling cars today if it was that easy.
Yeah,
It wasn't.
Darn. So my little orange car that I have now, I mean, I wanted that. I wanted a Honda Fit. That's what I wanted. I thought it was appropriate for what it fit what I needed.
They name it that because it fits in your pocket.
It does. It's so cute. But I went from a Cirrus down to this little tiny, it's probably like half the length of the Cirrus. But I remember there are two Honda dealerships, and I had to go to the one that was farther away because they had the orange one. And my husband's like,
Yes.
where do they want one?
Right? No, I went to buy my first new car. When I went to buy it, I was living in Philadelphia, and I wanted to buy a Suzuki.
Mm-hmm.
And there was a Suzuki dealership in Westchester and one in Philly.
Mm-hmm.
And the particular model I wanted, they came in 3 colors. And I went to the one in Philly, and they had a white one. I'm not a big fan of white cars.
Yeah,
But it had a white one there, and it was everything I wanted. And I went to the other dealership, and they had all 3 colors. They had 3 models. They had a red one, a white one, and a black one. That was all of them. But nobody came out to talk to me. I walked around those cars for at least half an hour, and not one person came out to talk to me.
They were not very motivated to
They
make
were
a
not.
sale,
So
were
I went
they?
back to Philly, and I bought the white one.
Yeah.
And drove that one for 14 years.
Wow.
I love that car. But my mother, she's watching, is the best
Mom.
one to go to a car dealership with. She is fantastic.
Oh.
First of all, I set her up by warning her on all the things you have to look forward to when you're buying a car. The one thing that bothered me when I was selling cars was that my boss would tell me that you can't sell to a woman. Now, granted, this was a while ago, but it still permeates the business that managers will tell male, well, probably even female salespeople that you sell to the man.
Mm-hmm.
And even then, I'm like, I was 22, 23.
Yeah.
Like, no. I'm not just waiting for her husband to show up so I
Yeah.
can sell them a car. I'm like, if a woman walks in here, I can sell her a car.
That's right.
She wanted to buy one. She came here. So a woman left our dealership, and my boss said, you know why you couldn't sell her? Because her husband wasn't there. I'm like, she bought that car that she brought it in there. And a few days later, she came in and traded it and bought a different car. I'm like, she bought the cars on her own.
Oh
I
my
saw
God.
that at that young of an age. But my mother was warned of these things, and we went to buy a car. I just went to stand by her. We get to the dealership, we sit down, and the salesman comes over and introduced himself to me. And my mom flipped out. And she's like, I knew you'd talk to him. I'm buying this car, not him. I was sitting on the end in the cube. I was the first one he came across. So he shook my hand first. He had no idea who was buying a car anyway. But he introduced himself to me, and she just went off. And she had every right to go off. No problem. But she was keyed up. She was ready for a fight. And that's how it was at every dealership. I have a story about every car she's ever bought, and they are all fantastic.
And they're probably like, okay, man,
Oh.
just take the car. I'll
Yeah,
give it to you. at a
we
discount."
negotiated on that car, and I gave her some numbers, and later on figured out they were wrong.
Yeah.
I was looking for a lower price
You were
than
in
we should have been
trouble,
negotiating
right?
from.
Yeah.
No, she got her price,
Oh my gosh.
even though I was starting at a wrong base. and she's the best because she'll decide to buy the car. Yeah, I'll take that price, even though you know it is a stunning price. Yeah, okay, I'll take that price.
Fine.
Mom, you just got to steal. Remember
Deal
that.
with it. Yeah.
Sellers beware when mom's in town.
Did you ever have? Let's see. I don't want to. We want to make this appropriate for our audience.
Everything's appropriate. They're friends. Come Come on.
Any memorable escapade in your Dodge Aries?
The Aries went through so much with us. Because it was a 6-passenger car, and
Oh
when
my
when
gosh,
I was
yes.
off at college,
Everybody,
nobody had a
pile
car.
in.
Well,
Yep.
nobody had a car, and so we went somewhere. I drove, and I can remember I went to a 2-year branch campus of Penn State, and it was a dry campus because nobody's supposed to be older than 20 there. We had a friend who was 21, and so he bought alcohol, and we decided to go to a movies one day. And I can remember my friend sitting in the front seat and the older friend in the front seat letting them into the back seat. It's a 2-door. And one of them pulls a flask out of his jacket and hands it to him and goes, "You're 21, you carry this." And we get in the car. I'm like, okay, now we're sneaking alcohol into the movie theater.
Yeah, great.
We get to the movie theater and we get up to the counter, and my one broke buddy goes up and gets like the big gulp, the biggest drink they have. I'm like, you barely scraped enough money together to go to the theaters. Why are you getting a drink? Naive me thinking, oh, he's mixing with the alcohol. Okay, so by the time we left, I was designated driver, so I didn't drink, but they were blitzed. It was I can't tell you what movie we saw, but I remember it being a fun night. That was just one of our many stories with that car. So what did you do with the Cirrus?
I was pretty tame. I the worst I did to that Cirrus is I killed a lot of batteries. I had a spate of like being really bad about turning my headlights off. Yeah. I'm over that now.
Oh, good.
I've reformed, but I was in a small fender bender with it in college. It was me versus a cement pole. It was one of those short ones, that comes up to here. I couldn't see that thing out of that Cirrus. Anyway, but actually what I really remember most about my young driving days was actually with that minivan. And oh gosh, I think I had my driver's license for a week or two at this point. And I remember we were driving home from Knoebels Grove, and we had met, like my family and then my uncle's family, we had met up there because it was kind of like I don't know, we used to do that a lot as kids, so we were doing it again. We had met up Knoebels Grove for the day, and it was at night. I was driving home, and it was just me and my parents in that red minivan, and we were driving home, and I'm coming down 419, and I hit a deer.
Oh,
really, the deer hit me.
Yeah.
And it was late at night, like it was dark, and if you've driven like up in that area, you're up on a mountain. There's nobody up there, so it's dark. There's no street lights. There's no nothing. And I just remember, like, I saw it. It's one of those things, where it's happening really fast, but also in slow-mo. And I saw this deer at the corner of my eye over here. And then the next moment, its head is right in the window, my window. And I screamed. I kept driving. And I finally pulled over. The next thing I saw that I could like safely pull over was Wayhar Farms, if anyone recognizes that. That's where I pulled over. And then one of my parents drove. But like the side door, the sliding, that was toast. It would not open. It was so bent in by this deer. And I was so terrified because I just got my license. And like, you're a kid and you think like the world's going to end. And I thought the world was going to end. Like, I just got my license and I hit a deer. Oh my God, I probably killed it. Then I'll never drive again. And, act of God. There's not much you could do about it. But to this day, my family, whenever we drive that road, we're like, this is where Kendra hit the deer. Or
there's a memorial there. Kendra's deer.
I remember one time my brother drew me a map. I don't even know where I was trying to go, and it was up that route. And he just that area, he just drew this little deer with X's on his eye. So I still think about it to this day. Every time.
That sticks with you.
Where I hit the deer.
When you said you killed batteries, I thought you were going to go down the avenue of animals. When my dad commuted, he commuted like 30 miles. in a big police cruiser, and it was a big, wide open rural interstate. And deer would come out, and he would, he's there early in the morning, he's there at the evening.
Oh, when they're most active.
Right. And I don't know if he killed 2 or 3 deer, but they would run out in front of him. And I told the mechanics at the police barracks, I said, can you get little deer stickers and put them on their, World War II flying ace kills?
Yeah, I was gonna say, like football helmets in high school, and they put the stars on them.
Right.
Yeah, you gotta.
His little deer there. But I had a buddy who, we were dating sisters. And they lived way down the valley, so I'd pick him up. We'd go down the valley and go see the girls. On the way home one night, we're coming up a rural road, very narrow 2-lane road, wooded areas on both sides, like farms and stuff. And we get to the one spot here, and there's a little embankment, maybe 6-8 feet above the road, and then a white fence and a field up there. And we get to there, and this deer comes up over the fence, down, and across the road. And my buddy grabs the dashboard. Deer, 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 deer. And I know what happens when you see a deer. There's usually one following it. So I'm on the brakes. Yeah, I've got it. Worry. And we see the second deer come up over the fence and down. But there was like a grassy area between the hill and the street. And the deer came down into the grassy area and never came out. And we sat there for a couple minutes. He's going to come out of here sometime. Where is he?
Deer.
Slowly I creeped by to make sure I didn't hit him, but he never came out of the grass. And the grass was only a few feet wide. He fell down there and must have saw it and just stayed in the grass. And we just kept going. So that same road, I did get my first deer there.
Yeah.
On a date. Yeah. Going to the movie theaters. Bam.
How romantic.
Yes.
Yeah.
Always reminds me of the Saturday Night Live sketch with Dan Aykroyd. And he's reading his story to his little girl before she goes to bed. And he goes, I don't know any stories. He goes, well, tell me about one of your work. No, there's no good stories about the garage. And he goes, oh, tell me. He goes, okay, well. And he starts telling about working on these cars. And the little girl goes, and did Bambi come out of the forest? Oh, Bambi. Yeah, Bambi came out of the forest. This guy was going about 60. Whammo! His radiator's grill gone.
Here. They're not very smart, though.
They look so good. But
they do, but it's like, what are they doing? I often think about the one I hit, and like there was no one else on the road. Like, why are you barreling straight towards this
the
big,
one thing on the road,
noisy thing with bright lights?
Right. Well, they're aiming past the lights, and they don't see the lights. They're aiming past the lights.
Yes, my goodness.
We had driving that rural road to my girlfriend's house one day. We crest a hill, and this is very rural central Pennsylvania. We crest the hill one day and come down the other side, and there are cows in the road at like 7 or 8 in the evening. Like, okay, I can explain deer. I'm not going to explain cleaning a cow off the front of my car.
No.
So we stopped and we're like honking the horn, waiting for the deer to clear, the cows to clear.
I don't think you're going to win in a tangle.
No, you definitely. My car was beat up after the deer. It would have been totaled after a cow.
So my school bus in elementary school, I would sometimes have a delay getting home because the farmer down the road from us, about a mile and a half maybe down the road, would move his cows from one pasture to the other on the road, and he would do it right when the school bus came.
Right.
So yeah, we got stuck behind cows frequently on the school bus. We never hit one though.
Oh, good. Well, I don't recommend hitting any animal.
No, I don't either.
However, when you're 18 years old and you're driving down the concrete highway between Bedford, Pennsylvania, and Cumberland, Maryland, it's concrete, it's white.
Yeah.
And it's in a valley.
Yeah.
And it's the place where gypsy moths cross. Now, when I was a kid, I never realized you could see gypsy moths crossing a highway at highway speed. But you can.
That's interesting.
And so as we're driving, and everybody hated gypsy moths.
Yeah.
So I'm trying to protect the trees. So when you're driving along, you're like, let's line up tires on these things. And you see the gypsy moth fly off the back of the tire on the way.
Do they like the white?
You can see them because of the white. As they're crossing over, you see this very dark gypsy moth caterpillar crossing over on a white concrete highway, and just line them up and run them over.
Like lanternflies.
Like,
I'm okay if I hit a lantern.
yes, I can understand that one too. That's a good one.
That's crazy.
Yeah, I never realized it until I got my license and I'm driving down the highway going, why are there bugs on the road?
Huh.
Oh, I
Fascinating.
had one other one.
Yeah.
Late night, midnight or so, coming back from my girlfriend's house. It was a rainy night, and the frogs were out. And it was foggy, and I'm coming around this very narrow Aurora road, and they were everywhere. They were all over the road. And I am just trying to avoid them. Just as I'm weaving around hundreds of frogs.
Like the asteroid field in Star Wars.
It was amazing. And as I could see the end of the road, crunch. Oh,
No!
I caught one. I did hit
no.
one. I was working so hard to avoid them as I was coming through there, but I heard at least one. So my heart goes out to the frog and his family.
One dumb thing I did. Well, I did a lot of dumb things, but
we
one
all?
really dumb thing that I remember doing with my Cirrus. It was my senior year of high school. You know what? It might have been like the last day before Christmas break too. Anyway, people were exchanging gifts, and someone had given me a gift, and I opened the trunk of my car, and her and I had put our bags and our instruments in there and stuff, and then I had this gift that someone gave me. Opened it. Oh, it's really nice. Thank you. And closed the car trunk. My car keys are in the car trunk. Uh-oh. So I called my mom on my super fancy Nokia that everybody my age had then. Called my mom on the Nokia, and I said, Mom, I locked the keys in the car trunk. She's like, okay, well, I'll come out with the other set of keys. All right. It was Christmas because it was cold. He said, how is it really? Can you guys get back in like the school? So, and I said no, because typical me had spent a lot of time socializing at the end of the day. So no, school was not an option to get back in anymore. And I said, oh, but we can sit in the car because the car's not locked. So my friend and I sat in the car and waited. And my mom came, gave me her set of keys. And I opened up the trunk and got my keys out, and we went on our merry way. So at dinner that night, we're talking. Dad said anything interesting happened, and we told my dad, well, I locked the keys in the car trunk. What'd you do? And I said, well, I called Mom. She came. You guys weren't cold. And I said, no, we sat in the car and waited. He goes,
the car was unlocked?
He said, wait, the car was unlocked. He said, well, yeah. He goes, well, then why couldn't you get your keys out? And I said, well, I couldn't start the car. I need the keys for the ignition. He said, come with me. And he took me outside to the car, and we went in the back seat, and it had that little button up there at the top to fold the back seat down and access the trunk, and I was like...
Could have saved a lot of time and energy.
Secret reasons why I now drive a hatchback. It never occurred to me. That I could do that. And it's not like I didn't know you could do that because I had done that. I play large instruments and carted people around with large instruments. We had pushed that down before and put things back there. It never occurred to me to do that. Whoops. Modern technology.
It happens to all of us.
Yeah, that was my dumb blonde moment of life. And I've admitted it to all of you.
There you go. Take that one home with you.
Yep. That and the deer.
Poor baby.
Poor baby. Oh, no. It was Bambi's older brother or something. Sister. I don't even know if it had antlers. I was so distraught by this deer going in my window. Woo! Yeah. Terrifying. So.
Yeah. Deer are not the brightest. I drove home one night and came up the back road, which I never do, to my house. And a deer came out and ran into the side of my car. Mm-hmm. And my little car was a cheap, thin metal car. I'm like, oh, I love this car. And that deer just dented it. He literally hit the side of my car as I was moving. I didn't hit him.
Yep.
I literally got hit by the deer.
Yep.
And I get home, and I'm ready to see the big dent in this little tiny door in this car, and it has this little spot of blood. And that was it. There was nothing else.
It's tough.
Yeah, I was very
tough.
happy. I was very happy about that.
Yeah.
That car went through a lot. I crossed Route 30 in St. David's.
Oh, cool.
It's 5 lanes of traffic there. And I'm sitting at the traffic light, and I'm crossing over 30. And I get all the way across, just about all the way across, when somebody blows the red light and clips me in the rear. I am almost all the way across the road when this woman hit the rear of my car and just caught the corner of my bumper. No damage to my car except for the red mark of her bumper on the white car of my car, on the back bumper, and she just kept going.
La-di-da.
Can't even get the paint fixed on my car because she just kept going.
Yeah. Well, I sympathize. If I'm like you, if I could get that Cirrus back,
that'd be a good car.
Totally would. I understand your Aries.
My Aries was a beast. I love that car so much.
Yep.
And
Totally.
and I still have friends who come up and say that Aries was such a great car.
Yeah.
And it's more that I had a car when I was 17.
Mm-hmm.
And they knew they could get a ride in it wherever we were going.
Yep.
It had a vinyl bench seat and a plastic steering wheel. In the summer, I had winter gloves to use the steering wheel because it was so hot. I was 16 or 17, and I put a Hurst chrome shifter knob on it, which meant you couldn't shift it in the summer. So the glove was there to put it into gear. It was a spectacular car. All 84 horsepower.
The first car is always your sentimental favorite, so definitely our viewers should comment with their first car.
Put in the comments on your favorite car.
We
want to
see what your first car was.
Absolutely.
Yeah, definitely.
Good.
All right.
Great. Well, thanks for joining us again.
It's been a lovely afternoon.
Absolutely. It's 145 degrees outside at the moment.
It is. We're going to stay here till the sun goes down.
In November.
In November.
We got to wait till it cools down a little bit. So, yes. So, enjoy yourself.
Yes.
Stay safe.
Thank you. And we will see you next time to talk about something. Not sure yet.
Here with us in the afternoon.
That's right.
Have a great one.
See ya.